This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Behind the Mask with a hospitality leader. I'm delighted to be joined with Heydon Mizon, Managing Director of McMullen Sons, amazing pubs and brewery. So Heydon, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good. I think we've seen a bit of a change in the tide and thought processes out there. So it must have been an interesting journey for you guys, and obviously you're running 126 sites, I understand, as part of McMullen's. As I understand, have made the decision to open the pub gardens in April. Heydon, how easy was that decision to make, and why have you made it?
So in our list of decisions we've made, it's probably one of the easier ones. So if we start with our purpose, which is that every guest should have the best possible experience every time they come, then I guess we can only do that if we're open. So our kind of decision process was, what do guests want? And if we can, they want us to open. If they don't come to us, where will they go? They'll probably go to the competition. And it's a lot more expensive to try and recruit a new guest than it is to try and open a pub that might be slightly less profitable than we want. So we decided we try and retain as many guests as possible. We think May and especially June, assuming that Boris proceeds as he's planned on his roadmap, or at least directionally in that way in terms of timings, we need the team match fit ready for June. And if they all come off their sofas the day before, they're not going to be. So it gives us a chance to ease into opening. We think it's what guests want. Will every site be profitable? Absolutely not. But we'll be ready for June.
I know that you guys made that decision, or you made that decision, really quite quickly. And when you say that was an easy decision to make, it does make perfect sense. Guest first and look after the guest, and of course, loss leader in terms of getting ready for it all going a little bit, as we all hope, a little bit crazy. So your internal comms are having made that decision, Heydon, to your general managers. What was the feeling in terms of feedback from your GMs?
So from day one, so from the day that we first knew that pubs were going to be heavily impacted to when we were told to officially close, we communicate regularly. So in terms of how we communicate, it depends on, we try several platforms because everybody wants to be communicated to in a different way. So face to face is best. Anything else is a distant second. Obviously we can't see everybody face to face, but we use lots of videos. We have an internal social media channel, email, WhatsApp groups, and the likes of that. And we just communicate regularly. And even if we don't have anything to say, we'll say, look, we don't know what's happening at the moment. This is how we're feeling. How's your 5K running going? What are you watching on Netflix? Have you learned any new yoga moves? What are you baking today? Is banana bread still the thing? And I think what that's done is it's just by communicating all the way along, everybody's been calmer and happier and worried less. So when we communicated that we were opening, it was just straightforward. We said, this is what we think will happen. This is our current intention, and if anything changes, we'll keep you informed all the way. It's been pretty smooth, really. We don't want the GMs to be worrying about anything. They don't need to be worrying about setting budgets, or when's the gardener coming back, when's the cleaner starting, when do the bins start getting recollected. We'll organise all of that. We'll communicate to the team. We'll explain the furlough rules, how we're going to deal with flexi. Our job is to make it as easy as possible for the GM to come back and just focus on running the pub. So far it's been pretty straightforward, and we're just starting our area meetings now, and then we'll get all the team back for retraining, communication about what's happening, what's changed, what's new. So by the time we open the doors, we should be as ready as we can be.
Well, you've done it before. And hopefully won't need to do it again in that way. No, that's fantastic. I do understand that the people culture is absolutely crucial, and to take that pressure off in uncertain times is well, I'm not surprised to hear that. That's amazing. So yourself, Heydon, if you don't mind, what's been the biggest challenge at MD level? And then on top of that, how do you see it going with the government support? And what are your views on the government decisions in respect to our industry?
So the toughest challenge, crikey, the toughest challenge for me personally was finding the balance between taking the pressure off other people, but letting them know that you're thinking about it. It's not, the team do not need to worry about cash being a challenge. They do not need to worry about it. That's not their problem. That's my job. But I need to let them know that we're dealing with it. So fortunately, actually, just before, so late 2019, I was sat at kind of an industry dinner, and I was sat next to a CEO who had been through a really tricky time in one of his businesses. Something had happened, it had made the news, it had gone global, it was a really big deal. And I just said, do you have any advice for when something completely out of the blue happens? And his advice, he sort of was, took a deep breath, he said, you know what, he said, that the key thing for me was just focus on the team. And if anyone asks you anything, say, I'm currently looking after the team. And once I've finished with that bit, I'll be able to answer the other questions. So from the day that we heard there was an issue, that, because it was fresh in my mind, was what we said and what we did. And that really helped. So the working out how much to share with it, sharing enough with the team, but so that they didn't worry, was probably one of the biggest challenges that I came across. In terms of government support, I suppose I have a slightly different view to a lot of what I read in the press. When Rishi announced the furlough scheme, the wave of relief that swept over me as I watched that come over the news was, I don't think I'll ever forget it. Because up until that point, my view was, how long do I leave it before I consider a huge redundancy program? And then I started to think how people can pay their rent, how they can feed their children. That was a particularly, but when he announced the furlough scheme at the level that he announced it at, because I've previously seen it at about 60% in other countries, it really helped. And I don't think I'll ever forget that. So whilst I would like more, I'd like to be able to pay our team more, and I'd like more support, that scheme has been incredible. The grants have been a bit clunky, but they've worked. Business rates is hugely outdated, but just taking it off of our P&L for a year has made a dramatic difference to our cash flow. The VAT was helpful and probably acknowledged again something that was a little bit outdated. So the only issue that it's not been a perfect process, but the one big issue that I think government probably haven't grappled as well as they should is the issue for rent. Now, we have paid all of our rent when it's due, every penny. We're a largely freehold business, so our rent is not such a big deal as it might be for others. We have some pubs that we rent to some very, very wealthy individuals and some companies that are worth £1 billion more than us. So, and they've not paid their rent, and that's made it very difficult for us to pay our team. It's really put a squeeze. So I can understand it both from an operator's view and from a landlord's view. And I guess that's the one thing where I think government has sat on the sidelines and left the sector to sort it out. And I think they probably should have intervened one way or the other a bit earlier and a bit more clearly. That would be my only criticism. But fundamentally, what a knotty problem. But I have appreciated the support that we have had.
I couldn't agree more, Heydon. I think as a small business owner, I think yeah, you know, a lot of us, well, any business owners, you know, the initial thing was, crikey, how long is the cash going to last? How long can we afford to pay people, and how are they going to be? And that the individual that you sat next to, you know, when it hits the fan, as it were, to look after the team and to focus on the team is probably some amazing advice. It probably came at the right time as well. I'd have to agree with you that the government's been, helpful, you know, in the most part, and they're always going to be up for criticism, aren't they? That's the nature of the beast. So I won't express too much of an opinion on that one, but I agree with you in terms of the positivity, and I really like that. So, okay, long-term hospitality brand. If the vaccine does its thing, which we are all praying and hoping that it does, and I'm sure it will, and the country gets on top of this, what does the longer term look like for the British pub on the back of all of this, Heydon? What do you think?
So the pub has almost become the epicenter of COVID. It is the thing that when we're going to, when we see freedom coming, or relaxation of rules coming, the pub is talked about. It's the marker that says we're closing or we're opening as an economy and as an industry. So whilst that's been a real worry for me, especially in the early stages, where he said things like, you shouldn't really leave your house, you shouldn't go to the pub. I was like, please stop talking about the pub. Talk about anything else apart from going to the pub. Because it's terrifying people, especially in that 5 days before we actually close in it's March, isn't it? So the pub has been front and centre. I think revisiting the pub is one of the markers that we're moving to a slightly brighter future. So I can't help but feel that the pub should only be more loved as we exit COVID. Now, the challenges that were there for us remain there, which is people are leading healthier, ever healthier lifestyles, and that impacts the alcohol consumption. Delivery, I perceive as a risk to the bricks and mortar business. It's great for some, but I personally perceive it as a bit of a risk. The high street, so all those challenges that are already there for the sector will absolutely still be there. But in terms of, do I think we'll exit as a more loved part of the community than we went into lockdown with? Yeah, absolutely. I've got friends who don't drink, who can't wait to get back to the pub. So I am hopeful. I do feel there is more chance or more discussion likely to happen around business rates and VAT. Once you turn those things off, you can accept that they can turn back on in a different way to how they closed. And I don't think that would have just happened by itself, not quickly.
No.
So I feel really positive. Do I think there are still some challenges? Yeah, I mean, it's been a really painful year and a bit, hasn't it? We're not out the other side yet. But I do feel that we will exit as well and as loved as anything that's closed down. I genuinely do. I might be a bit biased, but I think the British pub should still do well.
I think you've got every right to be a bit biased, Heydon. And yeah, I think just to share a conversation with a very good friend of mine who isn't in the industry, but he said to me, the toughest thing is not being able to go to the pub, and and I think that customer demand is so exciting, and to give that customer experience is going to be I know something that you and your teams are going to absolutely delight in. So Heydon, you're a busy man. Thank you so much for your positivity and for your time, and joining me in one of these episodes. So we'll catch up soon, and we will be able to have a pint in one of your pubs, no doubt, in the not too distant future, in a couple of months. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much, Heydon. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Cheers.
Bye for now.